Wanikani is a popular kanji learning application for Japanese. Kanji refers to Chinese characters that are used in the Japanese language. HanziHero, the web application my brother and I have built, is a Hanzi learning application for Chinese. Hanzi refers to Chinese characters that show up in Mandarin Chinese. Given the overlap between the Japanese and Chinese language learning communities, we get many questions about the similarities and differences between HanziHero and Wanikani. After all, though they both are focused on different languages, they share the same common purpose of helping people easily learn Chinese characters. Of course, which application you use really depends on which of the two languages you want to learn. But for those who are unsure whether they want to learn Chinese or Japanese, or the ambitious ones that want to study both, this video will give you a good overview of the two applications. Let's start with the similarities. At the core of Wanikani's and HanziHero's character teaching approach is teaching the components within each character. If you are not familiar, components are common groups of strokes that are found across many different characters. Most of these components have their own name or meaning. For example, these are the components for child and woman. When they combine like so, they form the character Hao, which means good in Mandarin. Knowing these components is the key to being able to recognize and differentiate the thousands of characters that are found in either language. Some characters are so similar that knowing the components is the only reliable way to tell them apart. For example, this character means friend, while this similar looking character means oppose. The difference between the two is the top left component. For both applications, the main reason components are taught is to make Chinese characters not only more understandable, but easier to remember. How so? With mnemonics. Whether you are learning Japanese or Chinese, you'll need to memorize the meaning of thousands of Chinese characters. Many would argue that this is the hardest task of learning either language, hence why applications like HanziHero or Wanikani exist to make it more approachable. Mnemonics, which are memory tools used to jog the memory, make memorizing these characters much easier. Both applications weave the names of the components within the characters to form a story that helps you remember the meaning and pronunciation of that character. To illustrate how this works, consider the character Hao, which in Mandarin has the meaning good. It has the components child and woman within it. A meaning mnemonic that can help you remember the meaning each time you see this character would be like so. It is good for a woman to be with her child. Then, each time you see that character, you can use the names of the components you recognize to jog your memory to remember the story. If you remember the story, you can remember the meaning of the character. Of course, you'll also need to remember the pronunciation too, and Wanikani and HanziHero both have mnemonics for that as well, which I'll cover when I get to the differences between the two applications. Learning Chinese characters without learning the words they form is sort of like learning the roots, prefixes, and suffixes within English, but never learning an English word. Instead, both HanziHero and Wanikani teach words alongside the characters that you learn. This not only ensures you better understand how the character is used in practice, but it also makes it easier to remember the character itself. This is because the more information you learn related to the character, in this case new words, the easier it is to remember that character. Wanikani currently teaches around 6,000 vocabulary words. HanziHero, on the other hand, teaches around 1,000 vocabulary words, with approximately 100 added each week as we fill in the curriculum. We aim to have around 8,000 to 10,000 vocabulary words in the final version of the application. Learning characters is relatively easy. The hard part is remembering them.
Doesn't look familiar to me. What?
The only way to ensure you do is to regularly review the ones you learn. With thousands of characters to learn and remember, this quickly becomes a huge time sink. To address this issue, both Wanikani and HanziHero use something called spaced repetition. This is the same concept used in popular flashcard applications like Anki. In both applications, you are regularly quizzed on the items you learned, where you'll be asked to type in the correct meaning or pronunciation of what you learned. The applications keep track of what you get wrong and right, and uses that information to better schedule your reviews. The more you get something right, the less it shows up in your reviews. And if you keep on getting something wrong, it'll show up more often until it is cemented in your mind. This ensures that you spend less time reviewing so that you can spend more time on other, more enjoyable aspects of learning the language. As we have seen, both HanziHero and Wanikani use components, mnemonics, vocabulary, and spaced repetition to help users learn and remember Chinese characters. Now let's cover the differences between the two. While both applications use mnemonics for the meaning of the character, in similar ways they differ in the mnemonics used for pronunciation. For Wanikani, there is a separate pronunciation mnemonic that relies on English words of similar pronunciation to help the user remember the pronunciation. That pronunciation mnemonic may contain multiple pronunciation clues, because a kanji can have multiple possible pronunciations depending on context. Here is one example Wanikani pronunciation mnemonic, alongside its meaning mnemonic. In HanziHero, pronunciation information is instead represented by personas, locations, and settings instead of English word approximations. That pronunciation information is included in the main meaning mnemonic. I go over this in detail in my video about how to remember Chinese characters, so if you are curious, check that out. For the same character, here's our mnemonic. These differences are explained by differences in the language. Mandarin has many sounds that are not found in English, so we cannot use English word equivalents to represent the pronunciation of a character, requiring us to use a different way of encoding that pronunciation information. Additionally, most characters in Japanese have multiple pronunciations depending on context, making a single mnemonic that combines the meaning and pronunciation not feasible for most characters. In Mandarin, by contrast, the majority of characters only have one pronunciation, so we can easily have a single mnemonic that captures both meaning and pronunciation. Another big difference between HanziHero and Wanikani is the number of characters taught. In Japanese, one only needs to know around 2100 kanji to be able to read most Japanese texts. As such, Wanikani teaches approximately that many kanji. Chinese is a different story. For the HSK, which is the Chinese proficiency test used in China, one needs to know 3,000 characters to pass the highest level. That's nearly 50% more. Those 3,000 characters in the HSK still doesn't cover all the characters you'll find in something as simple as Harry Potter, for example. In reality, most Chinese speakers know around 4,000 to 5,000 characters in total, and you'll need to know approximately that many to recognize all characters you come across in daily reading. That is over double the amount of characters you need to know compared to Japanese. Currently, HanziHero has around 4,000 traditional characters and 3,000 simplified characters that we teach our users. We add more each week and plan to top out at around 5,000 characters for each script. As of the time of this video, both Wanikani and HanziHero do not allow skipping any characters or words learned in the application. The reason for this is simple. The components, characters, and words are all interconnected in such a way that skipping any of them diminishes the main advantage of our mnemonics. However, HanziHero does have the ability to prioritize certain characters, so they show up earlier in your lessons, which Wanikani does not currently have. For example, if you come across a character while studying that you haven't learned in HanziHero yet, you can prioritize it so it will show up in your next set of lessons, helping you remember it going forward. This makes HanziHero a bit more flexible than Wanikani in terms of the ordering of lessons. Those are the main similarities and differences between HanziHero and Wanikani. There are many I did not cover for sake of time, so if you have any additional questions, feel free to leave a comment below. For Japanese learners looking to dip their toes into learning Mandarin Chinese, you can try out our web application for free at HanziHero.com. Likewise, if you are a Chinese learner looking to study Japanese, it may be worth checking out Wanikani. I have not used it much myself, but I know they have a free tier as well for new learners. If this video was useful to you, let me know with a thumbs up. And if you want to see more videos about how to learn Chinese, be sure to subscribe to our channel. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.